Happy Thursday, everybody. It's us here at Yes, I Am the Veteran. I am Brandy, and this is the beautiful, as always, Miss Melissa. Yes.
Hello.
Hey, lady, how are you doing?
I am well. I'm like, it's always on a Thursday. I'm just like, I'm
Good.
ready for the weekend, and it was a long day today.
You so like what happened? Like did like something happen to like your shoes or something happened?
Which part?
Did
Oh,
something
that
happen
was
to
the
like your
other
shoes?
week.
Yeah, like the wrong shoes went to
That
the
was
gym, and
that,
you had to go to the gym like the
yeah,
next shoe.
that was the other week. And then last week it was like raining, and by the last stop of my like day, my account, it was like my earring was gone, and I didn't know when that happened or how that happened. I just know
Got
it
lopsided.
happened. Oh, and I got to see, so I ran into Simone Biles at Target today.
What?
What?
Yeah, yeah. She lives over here.
Where do you live?
Mm. I live in Spring, Texas.
Oh, snap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
her gym, like her home gym is like 15 minutes from me. Like, so
So how did that go?
I was just like, I just waved at her because she's shopping at Target by herself. So I was just like, I'm gonna let her do her thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then she was like, and she went back at me, and I was
Hey,
like,
girl.
oh my
Ah.
God. I know. I was like, oh my God. And then I told my coworker, I was like, dude, that was Simone Biles. She was like, who's that? And I was like, what? And she goes, well, I know who it is, but I saw you wave at her and I didn't know if you knew her. I was like, yeah, we know her, girl.
And you
That's
know,
a Olympic gold medal
let's send her a
medalist.
shirt. Let's send her a podcast shirt.
Right.
Gosh, dude, I was just like,
So, those of you guys don't know, we actually did launch with Killful Clothing our podcast shirts. So, Melissa's going to put a link to the webpage in the comments. It's going to be available for the next 3 weeks. And this will have proceeds going to Operation Tattooing Freedom so we can get Cecilia, one of our first guests, some clients so she can ink for veterans that have PTSD, which I think is great. Some of you guys may have seen my self as Evil Vanna on the Operation Tattooing Freedom webpage this last weekend. I was able to go on. We did have a shooting event, and afterwards, we did like I said, we did go ahead and raffle. And the Marine that actually won it ended up returning the handguard. She was so moved that we had raised money for a full tattoo. Actually, ended up being a full tattoo in the end for a veteran with PTSD. She actually donated it back for a future event with Operation Tattooing Freedom. What she doesn't know is I reached out to the president. I was like, hey, like we need to go ahead and say, thank you to our girl because that was very selfless. So they were like, okay. What they're going to do is at the All American Tattoo Convention in 2 weeks, they are going to have her come on live and they're going to shout her out there, which I think is awesome because they have some world-class tattooists that are going to be there with them. So I definitely am glad that our sisters are looking out for each other and other veterans. I thought that was really cool. I've done some recent interviews as well. I did the Chili Most radio show earlier this week. I also did a really interesting speaking with Christina Forbish from the Canastore. We spoke on the Seedsman genetics page. It was actually a really interesting talk. She did give out a lot of amazing information for veterans that do use medicinal cannabis. So it was actually a lot of really great information. And I know we're kind of gabbing here, but I definitely want to introduce our author here and our guest, author Jennifer Hobbs. So tell us about yourself, ma'am, and what got you into advocating.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited that you guys welcomed me. So thank you for that. I'm Jennifer Hobbs. I was in the military for about 9 years, and in that time, I was with a transportation unit that we were gun security overseas for. Basically, the civilian truck drivers were the mail carriers, and we spaced ourselves out in the convoy to be gun security. And so that was our deployment for the most part, except for some few other missions. And I was 19 when I got deployed and 21 when I returned. And through those years, returning. So basically, I wrote a book. And it was published last year in July 2021. And it's a dual memoir of my time and my husband's time in the military. I met him on that deployment in 2004 when I got mobilized and when I was 19. So I joined when I was 17 and I got mobilized when I was 19 with a transportation National Guard unit. And that was a rough year for our unit, to say the least. It was the Paris, Illinois 1544th Transportation Unit. We lost 5 people from 3 to roadside bombs and no, 3 to mortars on our base and 2 to roadside bombs. And in that year, it was just it was a lot, right? It's like when you're put into a place where you're in a lot of trauma, a lot of combat, you don't have anything else. You bond with these people around you and you face the hardest things with them. And so that was a lot. And when we came back, as we're all struggling with things, the 5th person that died in our unit died in the truck with my now husband. She died instantly, but everyone had assumed that he had passed away first because he was the gunner on the back of the truck. And when the truck got hit by a roadside bomb, it flipped and landed on top of him. And so everyone on the mission assumed it was him. However, it was not. And so here just goes the life of post-traumatic stress, but post-traumatic growth, fortunately. Like, we are in the place where when we returned, we were both dealing with our own stuff. We separated. It was a hot mess. And so that's where the dual memoir comes in to talk about all of that. I
Yeah.
think I completely got off on a tangent there,
No,
but
honestly, we're thankful that we were able to.
that's
share
what the
with
book
us.
is about. Just all that rough year, that rough returning, and then the war at home. But I barely touched on the war at home, and that's where my second book will go. But yep. Okay, so I
I'm so happy.
Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm thankful that you're touching on this tonight. I know John's saying his heart is heavy tonight. I think a lot of people, they don't know how to deal with trauma, or that true loss, and really how, PTSD really changes you as a person. And no one really discusses that. It changes your entire personality. And you never come back the same person that you deploy as. Like, that's a fallacy. That's not a truth. And for you, I mean, it's amazing that you're writing about it and you're opening yourself up, because I know, like, I have traumatic experiences and they're very different than yours, but that doesn't make them, not traumatic. And it's hard to process things like that.
right.
And, not punishing the people around you for the traumas you're suffering. We don't realize that we do that. And I think that it's like awesome that you're discussing it from like a his and her point of view. So people really kind of get the full understanding from maybe, they had those, things that happened to them. And then, you don't always understand why from one point of view, but when another person explains it, or they talk about, this is why, and these are my experiences, I think it's a valuable insight, and it's very rarely afforded in a book. And it's an amazing book. So if anyone hasn't read it, I definitely recommend it. So this book is Calmed Life After Trauma. This is her book that she wrote.
It's growth after trauma.
Oh, I apologize.
It's all good. It's all good. Calmed growth after trauma.
Yeah, I love that cover too. And I know Melissa, she had a question for you as well.
I actually want to tell you about that cover after Melissa's question.
Oh, really?
Assuming that, of course, the book, you're telling us that it's about the growth after trauma. What inspired you to write? Do you, having your husband be part of this memoir, do you felt like it helped you get through writing it all down, putting it all out there, that you are able to both support each other in this? what were some things that may have gotten in the way? Yeah.
Yes. So I understand all your questions right there. I would say that what helped me to get it out, first of all, it was when I started writing 18 years ago about this, it was more as a coping mechanism. And I kept throwing it out there for years like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. That was really just, I really didn't put much passion into that statement. And then 2 years ago, after a head injury that I had, I got to a darker place. And in that place, I just knew I didn't want to be there. And that was when I decided to make some goals for myself. And I made myself two goals. Like, I've been a teacher for 12 years. And so I knew that when you make goals, like, you don't make like five, because that's ridiculous. You have to, like, set your expectations a little bit lower. So I was like, I'm just going to make like two goals right now. And one of them, and I typed them in my phone actually. And it was just all of our goals to like get out of debt. I mean, I think all of our goals.
Like goal 1 or 2, usually it's
Get
like
out
looking
of
at the
debt, like
debt.
be debt free. And then number two, to get back to writing, which was such a random goal for me to write at that time. There was nothing in the last 18 years that had encouraged me to make that goal, right? I was just in this space. It was that head injury recovery was rough. And so I was in this space where that's just the goal I wrote. So, long story short, that's where I was inspired to get back to writing this story where I really wanted to get my words out, but with a mission to show a perspective of combat and to show a perspective of what that looks like. And in the end, with the hopes of moving on to continue that mission to help veterans and their families. It wasn't just about writing that. And actually, at the end of it, I feel like I wrapped it up so quick. Like, I went through this ridiculously traumatizing but helpful and best year and worst year of my life, right? Deployment. And then I get back and I like wrap up marriage and kids and like just a chapter or something. And it was because I was overwhelmed that when I start to speak about the war at home, it's a whole nother topic. The war at home, like what that looks like, not just from a veteran, but that what that looks like from the spouse and the mom and the sibling
Yes,
and the kids. Wow. When I looked at that and my mind went to all those places, I was just overwhelmed. I knew this was where I needed to stop and this is where I needed to continue the next book and portion of it.
that's amazing.
Like, what did your spouse like think? Like when you brought it up to him, you wanted him to write his, I guess, perspective.
I'm glad you mentioned that again because I think Melissa had mentioned that in her question. That was really intimidating because my husband, um, like, it's still a process, right? Like, it's 18 years. It seems like a long time, but it's actually really still fresh. There's a lot of stuff that, again, will just continue on for a lifetime. And so when I had told him that I wanted to take my memoir into a dual memoir because I knew so much of his perspective on the same deployment and how it really was the suggestion of my book coach, a great suggestion. And he was okay with it, which shocked me. And in those conversations that we had for like the 6 to 9 months, as I was diving deep, I knew a lot, but as I was diving deep and asking more questions, like it was almost like when he would answer them, it was a release of emotions. It
Mm.
was like someone actually cares to hear this. Like
The validation.
exactly,
But
exactly.
and not only that, like you saying that, like how long have y'all been together when you started writing this book? So then like I feel like that's very intimate for y'all to share, even though you've been together for years and you experienced this together, but you like you said you mentioned asking these type of questions you hadn't asked before, or
Yeah,
maybe just didn't like y'all didn't talk about it, you know? And
yeah,
I think that's very special. And I
Yeah.
hope that like, you know, help
yeah,
people help like heal each other and help each other.
right.
I'm just trying to
I
think of
agree.
like a dysfunctional like couple or trying to do the same thing as you and like the hilarious Tyler Perry like reactions that you could probably have like reading it. And like I think it's amazing that like you were able to like work together and do this and like heal, and it was very cathartic for you guys. And I think that that's
It
amazing.
was. And honestly, it still continues. Like,
Mhm.
actually, it's super crazy. But in that book, you'll learn about not only did he get hit by a roadside bomb and the truck landed on top of him and crushed his jaw, like, and he had to have his jaw rebuilt, his entire upper jaw rebuilt. Now he is having it rebuilt. Like now it's all, I don't know, like it's everything. Actually, we just found out. We just went to the doctor today to like follow up on what our mission is. So it's kind of fresh, like, but it just goes to show this. It goes to show that like the war at home continues on for a lifetime, whether it's someone that got their face smashed in or not. It's something that will always be with you, and those memories that you can't let go of. And even if it's not war, if it's just trauma, those memories will always be with you and you can't erase them. However, you can take some control over how you respond to them, um, and what you do with them. So,
Absolutely. And tell us about the cover. You were saying that you wanted us to ask about the cover of the
yes,
book.
I'm glad you said that. So, when my husband was hit by a roadside bomb on October 6th of 2004, so that's his alive day that we celebrate every year. We also celebrate Coffee Day, which is the day to recognize the life of Jessica Covey, my battle buddy who died in the truck with my husband. She was killed instantly, from what I heard. But before she died, she was the fifth person to die in my unit. We had five people die in my unit, and like I said, three from mortars and two from roadside bombs. She was one of the roadside bombs, and so toward the end there, at the fourth memorial, which was actually the third and the fourth memorial in the same day, because we got hit really hard at a mortar attack on September 5th, 2004, and we lost two soldiers that day. And after that memorial, they had played the same song at each of the memorials, which was Toby Keith, American Soldier, which is a great song, and I always have to point that out. I'm not hating on that song at all, but in a combat, like anytime you're
Dramatic response too.
mourning people,
Mhm.
right? Anytime you're mourning people after the first three, four memorials, like she walked away from that memorial that day and she had said, and she was in my platoon, so like we were all really close, and she had said, like, if I die, don't you play that song at my memorial. She
Oh,
said, she said, you better play something like Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster, and
yeah.
throw my boots over the power line. And
Aw.
that is exactly why I hung those boots on that book. And I'm so glad it came to that point, because I was actually brainstorming other book covers. And when they weren't, I wasn't vibing on it. I wasn't feeling it. And neither was other people weren't. That's when I was like, well, I kind of want to see her boots hanging. Like, I could do that for her and put her boots up for a lifetime. And it ended up coming out amazing. Like, we got all 5 of the soldiers in my unit, their boots hanging on the cover.
I love that.
Me too.
That is sweet. Sweet of you.
So hi Ryan, I'm sorry we didn't mean to interrupt. We don't want to interrupt our speaker. I apologize, but we wanted to say hey. And absolutely, families are paramount to helping people with PTSD. That's a good support system is so important, and I mean understanding triggers and just how to manage those and recognize them when they're first coming on is very important, especially to a person in like a public environment or anywhere that potentially could be triggered. It's very important. What was I going to say? I know you said that your spouse is super supportive of when you wrote. Do you feel like, in general, as a writer, that a supportive spouse or an environment helps or encourages people to publish their work, or do you feel like maybe it's precludes people, I guess, in certain circumstances, in your opinion?
Honestly, I think that would just vary based on the environment. Like, for my environment, it's kind of different. Like, I would guess my husband to like shoot stuff like that down and be like, what? But then again, we're both combat veterans, and I'm coming to him with this mission, my passion. I'm coming through like with what I got to say, and he knows me. And so I think it really would just really depend on that conversation and that relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
I would. What challenges are most commonly that you've noticed, that you've seen, that you've noticed, that you have noticed a few times, maybe after service, like the challenges you face, and then how? And I feel like yours is like a, how do you say, distinct situation, because you are both dual military, both dual combat veterans. How does that, maybe like the challenges you face, impact your relationship with your spouse, or what, maybe even with like friends that you were served with? Like, what is a common challenge that you may have seen?
A common challenge would be like anger and overstimulation. I've started to learn a lot about it myself, and it's starting to make some connections to what I see in my own life and with my battle buddies. And really, it's like being overstimulated, and that comes off in a response as anger or super excited or overspending, like a lot of different things. And so that's one of the similarities that I see, a similar struggle I see amongst all of us. And when it comes to my husband and I, we both struggle with anger, but I think to an extent, one of the things that I think we also struggle with, especially him, would be sarcasm, like being able to draw the line between when is enough enough.
I feel like that's such a military thing. Like, I feel like we're very sarcastic. Like,
I know,
Comes
me
with the job.
too. Me too.
I get in trouble all the time, and I'm like, I'm just joking. Like, I'm being.
I am too. And so now I've married one, and I'm about to throat punch him.
We've all been there. Oh, The struggle, marriage and HR.
I'm not sure I answered the rest of your question. Did I answer all
No,
of
you
it?
said, oh yeah, like the common challenges, and then I just know that y'all both dual military, um, and then y'all both served together. That was similar. That's similar to me and my ex-husband. We both served together, and we were together. But we were in the Navy. We were stationed in Japan. So I think that is pretty special that y'all have something to share.
I think another challenge has been the fact that like I get more from my appointments going to the VA, and I think he gets as much as me, but he doesn't make the effort of making those appointments. And like, then if I make them, then I'm like the, I'm like the authoritarian, making your appointments,
No.
and so that's one difference we have. I do kind of dive more into the self care.
And that's so important too, especially with PTSD. There's so much treatments out there.
Yeah, it
I
is
was
so important. It's actually an ongoing conversation between him and I. So we'll get there.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
going to ask. I was going to ask. Since you mentioned this is something you talk about, are these things you also talk about on your podcast?
Are
And
these
what
things
is
you talk about on there?
are these questions like you talk about on your podcast or your podcast? Will you tell us about your podcast?
Yes.
I'm glad you said that. Like, because, okay, so yes, I have a podcast. It's called Celebrate the Struggle. And originally, like when I started it, like someone had asked me probably like 6, 9 months before I started it, like, you should start a podcast. Have you ever thought about that? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I don't think it's for me. And then when I started to think about like how I have a message that I want to get out there, I have words that I want to put into the space, and I want to make space for it. But I also want to make space for other people's words. And so when I realized like I can't do all that in book writing, and other people aren't going to do that in book writing, like let's make space for it. That was when I decided to start my podcast. But back to your question, Melissa, I aspire to have those kinds of conversations like that. I have had some relatively close when I've had other veterans on. It's called Celebrate the Social Struggle, like I said. And originally I wanted to have people on there that would just acknowledge like the struggle they've been through, their perseverance, and like let's just talk about where you are now and give space to the struggle, but celebrate where you are now. And was looking at veterans and their families, but I really just kind of want to bring in anyone that, because this is life and life has struggle. And when you start to tap into all the different space of that, we can all relate. We all feel the same from those struggles. So it was then that, now I got off on a tangent. Crap.
Relatable.
It
We all
was
do.
then that I started the podcast. Where was I going? Hold on, I almost got it. Rein it back in.
Sounds like you.
You're such a character. Do people tell you that?
I love her.
Yes.
The conversation. So I aspire to get to the place where I had already told my husband like 3 months ago that I wanted to have conversations with him on there. A battle buddy and mine have already, a battle buddy and mine, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, my
Mine.
battle buddy and I have started doing Thursdays with him. And then another girlfriend of mine, like, we really want to do our own segment of just like mom stuff, wife stuff, like madness.
Yeah, they have Season Crazy on here on VRS, and they have two pretty fun moms have their mom ventures. Pretty funny, and we have the Bad Moms Club here as well. So you're more than welcome to join us for.
I watched
an
one
evening.
the other night. I think it was the best. Oh my gosh, I was dying.
Yeah, I gotta like about that one.
I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry.
That's funny.
So
Mhm.
We
what
should
would
have
you?
fun.
Right. So, I mean, be good or be good at it. That's my motto. So, um, what would you say to maybe a veteran that is like, or a person suffering a traumatic event due to service that you may not have been aware of, or just advice that you would give that, like, to your former self?
I would say the first thing is that you need to really just pause and before you react. Like with everything, there's so many stimulants that come your way, whether it's people talking to you or life, like a lot is coming at you. And so to say pause at the stimulant sounds kind of weird, but it's really just referring to like take it all in for a minute and assess the situation. Respond, don't react. Respond, don't react. And so there's going to be just a lot of things that you'll have to sort through, work through. Some things difficult, some things not. And only you can figure that out. Like, and only you can do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone else like turns you down, like, whatever hospital, or if other people are telling you not to do stuff, like only you can do something about it. So there's going to be a lot of fear that comes your way. And the fact that you're even in this place, knowing that you need to do something about it, you got this. You got this. Overcome that fear.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, y'all. My back is like.
I love your hair, though. I know, right? I'm stroking right now.
Long.
Oh, thank you. This is the
You guys are
This is the
beautiful.
longest it's been in like it's over 10 years.
You got like that beautiful
It's beautiful.
Latina length, though. Like, I mean, you do the bun. You got like the bun for days. Like, if I do a bun, you're like, "Where's the rest?"
No
of
more buns.
it?
Just
I bet
like
your
pull
bun
all my
is for
hair.
days.
Just pull my hair. But okay. So back to you. I'm like back to Jennifer. Well, I know you're a mom. Like, are you a mom of 2? Are you a mom of 3?
I'm a mom of 3. I have one bonus son that's 13. Actually,
Okay.
in my book, Calmed Growth After Trauma, you'll read about how my husband and I split up when we got back from Iraq, like both of us dealing with our own stuff, which is what I think I got off on a tangent at the beginning. And he had a child with someone else. And then 5 years later, when we got back together, much better in completely different places and spaces.
Mhm.
We had 2 girls. So now we have 3 kids, 4, 8, and 13.
Aw.
That's
Oh, yeah, it's so
awesome.
cute. You guys are like, oh, you guys are like,
Mine's 6.
I only have one.
Yeah, there you
so
go.
far.
Yes. I can only chase one. Like, KJ, yeah. KJ's got to be a runner. Hi, KJ. Yes. She's definitely more than I do. And I definitely need a brace. I want to go over to her house because I am not fast.
right?
I was like, I can't go. I can't run. So I look like a wimpy T-Rex, like trying to run because I can't get my legs. So I'm like trying to swing it around fast enough, and then sometimes I trip myself.
That's hilarious.
It's like a different mom struggle. I'm just saying. Try to run after your kid with a bike. Good luck on that. Just good luck.
Jennifer, when do you plan on releasing your next book?
Oh, Melissa, that's a good question. I am finishing it up right now, and then after that comes the editing process, which is brutal.
I don't
How long does that take?
How long? I mean, it depends on how much I like
rewriting the same thing over and over and over.
Well, it depends on how much I will sit there and redo it myself a million times. You actually get to this point where you're like, I just want to burn it. And and then I'll have someone else edit it, and then
And it's bleeding.
we will see it in its. So I hope by fall, maybe winter. I hope
Okay.
actually, I don't
Ooh.
hope it'll be fall or winter.
You'll have to come back on and talk about your new book then.
I would love that. And actually,
Yeah.
so I was doing a lot of research. I really, what my passion is at this point is to really show the war at home and what that looks like from all these different perspectives, like the mother of a veteran, the father of a veteran, the sibling, the kids, the just the spouse, all of those different perspectives and how combat ripples into all these parts of your life. And I know that requires a whole lot more research than I've already done, and so that's what I'm working on for book 3. And I don't know what I was going to say with that. It'll come back to me,
I had an
Brandy.
idea for that. You can
Okay,
make
go
it
for it.
it probably to be easier. Hopefully, I'm just saying. I don't know. Excuse my dog. A podcast series just on that. Maybe like one person that like their family or friends are like describing how like their perspective and
The
things like that.
perspective. Yeah. So, Melissa, good thinking because actually, so what I was thinking is kind of like that is my book, Calmed Growth After Trauma, has quite a, it has a handful of characters in it. And I was hoping to connect book 3 to that. So have the mom of my husband or things like that and connect them to book 1
Nice.
there. But that's a good point, Melissa, because there's so many stories out there. Like, can you just imagine if you like snatched up a military family and got their perspective and all the different stuff that goes on? It's just a lot. It's a lot.
That
Moms
could
would
be
fight,
a show, movie.
right? Especially the general's family, like the daughter's doing crazy stuff. Like
Yes.
he's doing crazy stuff. She, it's like who knows? But no, absolutely, I think that would be awesome.
Mhm.
And then, so what would you say is like the biggest hurdle that you see veterans family, like a veteran families face post service?
The biggest problem, I would say, would be the initial transition. What I really think needs to be done to prepare for that would be being more proactive and kind of preparing people for that transition rather than trying to train them and brain dump all this information on them. I mean, 18 years ago, it was a brain dump, but even now, I think it's even more of a brain dump with everything that it's a lot to take in, a lot. And you're transitioning back from a combat zone where you come with all these warrior reflexes, this warrior mindset. And so I would say to be more proactive and kind of expecting that. And so what does that look like? That looks like kind of preparing for your return. Like, what are your plans when you get back? Like, don't jump right back into work. Maybe jumping back into work is for you. Don't come back and be in the situation where you're like trying to figure out what's going on. Like, maybe plan for it, have things in place for different plans, whatever is appropriate for your life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Gracias. Jennifer, what would you say to any veterans that are new to writing or maybe want to write? Because I know I have stories. I feel like ever since I was little, I'd be like, my diary could be a movie. Y'all don't want to. Y'all know, please. I burned those diaries
Like,
just so
that one,
nobody could read them. But yeah,
We
like
all have a story. We
yes,
all
oh
have
yes,
Several.
stories.
yes. So
Absolutely.
what are some words that you would give to aspiring writers and just other veterans out there wanting to go for something, to do it?
Yeah.
To do it, to write, I would say just right. It sounds so simple, but it was the best advice I got. Like as I was like picking my brain and like having all this fear and doubt come into me and brainstorming with my book coach and like throwing out all the stuff that I was thinking. She was like, calm it down. Just right. Don't think about any of the editing. Don't think about anything that you're trying to make perfect. Don't think about what you just wrote. Don't even think about the sentence you just wrote. Just write. Just keep writing. Whatever comes to mind, put it down. There will be a time where you go back and you look at that.
Nice. And can you? So I know that you talked about like your writing, but I know that you have a mission too. Can you talk a little bit more about that and maybe like the found wellness framework that you are working on?
Yeah, so thank you for asking, Brandy. After I wrote my book, actually, through the process of writing my book, like I was just really doing a lot of personal growth and a lot of self reflection. Wanted to step into this space of getting back to the passion that I just knew that I wanted to do, which was to help veterans and their families. And it was then that I started to have those conversations out loud and brainstorm that. And I through those conversations, I identified that I felt like the best way to be able to help veterans would be to help their families. And so to like be able to equip them with a different mindset, right? And different strategies and that like to be able to connect with their veteran. And so that was when I was like, well, I think they should be able to do this, this, and this. And my book coach was like, wow, that like spells a word. And it was found like F, like focus on yourself first. Like no one can help anyone else until you help yourself. You can't help anyone else until you help yourself. You gotta like know your own triggers. You gotta know your own self-care. You gotta do you, boo. And then there's O, opening those lines of communication, however that's appropriate with whatever person you're trying to help, however that's appropriate in their life and in your life. Like, figure that out, right?
Mhm.
Don't come at them. There's a lot of ways we could come at them in not the appropriate way. And then you having like uncomfortable conversations, expect like you were wanting to help them. There's gonna be uncomfortable conversations that you're
Mhm.
not expecting potentially, that you don't want to hear potentially. Like be prepared for them. Again, go back to F, focusing on yourself, know your triggers, know how to respond, be aware of how you need to be sensitive to what they're going to say, like whether you like it or not. Do a lot of listening. And then N, navigating resources and needs, like for that person, that veteran, how can you help them? This is all like it's a framework of like selfless service, like giving back and helping other people. And then D, de- dedication to development and just being on a mission to continue helping and helping them find themselves. But here's the thing that I've been able to figure out about this framework, and I love it about it, like that it's not a framework where you start at F and you end at D and you like graduate and you get like a cute plaque. You don't. It's life, right? So it goes back to F sometimes and it goes back to O. And even in my own life, it goes back to O. Sometimes it goes back to F, but like with the things my husband and I have going on, sometimes it goes back to, oh, and I got to have those uncomfortable, I got to I got to figure out how to talk to him about something and then have those uncomfortable conversations about what should we do about this. And um, at the beginning of the conversation, there was something that was said, and I think I was going to come back to it, but on the deployment, he was hit by a roadside bomb and all that happened. Did I mention like where his teeth were all? Did I even say that?
You just talked about his jaw a little bit, but not so much.
Yes. Well, today, the reason why I'm getting it mixed up is because today we went to his doctor's appointment and he has to have it all redone again 18 years later. He has to have an extensive amount of work. And here's the thing about so don't feel bad about it. Like, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through it. But here's where our veteran mindset is, like, in the waiting room, sitting next to each other. They're telling all this information about like how it's gonna be 18 months and all these months of recovery. And I looked at him and I said, hey, it's only 1 week in a month, 2 weeks during the summer. Sign up for the National Guard. And he was like, oh my God.
Throw stuff at you. Nice.
So that's how we, like, fortunately, we are both combat veterans, so we have that similar,
You understand
humor. Exactly. We understand each other.
That was always fun with my ex-husband. Like, and then I started dating like civilians, and it didn't end well because we used to like arguing, but like arguing military and arguing civilian are two totally different ways to argue with a person. And apparently, like, it makes men cry, and it's uncomfortable. So it's a challenge. But yeah, I definitely can appreciate that. Did you feel that the release of your book helped or hindered your mission with veteran families that you do currently?
I think it definitely helped. I mean, it was the start of my mission. It was the start of me stepping out of the expectation of expecting myself to continue in education. Like, I had started in teaching, I got 2 master's degrees. Like, I came back from Iraq expecting myself to jump into school and to continue that. And anytime I even veered from the thought, it was like, oh no, you got to go back to school. Like, oh, and now you're at work. Like, oh, you want to get higher on the pay scale? Like, okay, so you get more education. And 2 master's degrees later and resigning from teaching. And I'm super happy. I'm very happy about my decision. I did just start a part-time special education teaching job. But what's nice is that, like, I get to do that part-time job from home and be able to step away from it when I need to and do the things I'm working on as well with my mission. Just the calling to come back down that mountain and help other people come up the mountain.
Absolutely. And it's so important. And so few people really use their platforms to help others. A lot of times it's, what can you do for me? And then maybe I'll help you, maybe not, but I mean, you're doing it. Like, you became published, and then you came back and said, hey, I know other people probably are dealing with what I dealt with, or you probably had even people that read your book telling you similar things or feedback. And you're just like, well, crap, I guess it isn't just me. So it's always,
that has actually been the most amazing part of the entire journey. When people have asked me, like, how's your book doing? Is it successful? My idea of success is defined, like all of our ideas of success is defined differently. And you could look at it in a lot of different ways. But one of the things that, like, brings me so much joy is that in the first month that my book was published, so my book was published at the beginning of July of 2021, and it was then that a woman from New York, I live in Illinois, a woman from New York reached out to me by Facebook Messenger and said, I really liked your book. It was amazing. Like, I want you to know that there was a guy working on my yard He was clearly, my husband and I sparked up a conversation with him. He was a veteran. He was clearly struggling with some things, and we made a connection with him. And through our conversation, I went inside and I got your book. I brought it out and I handed it to him, and I said, I think that this might help you. And the guy looked at her and said, well, thank you, but I already read that book and it did help me. And that was in the first month of my book being published in July. And I live in Illinois. And he lives in New York. And just some complete stranger said that. Now, whether that was a lie or not, it worked to build me up. It was amazing. Like, it was, and those things like that. So I've heard other stories like that. I've had someone email me and tell me that he had given a book to a Korean veteran or Korean veteran maybe, and he was going through dialysis for chemo and that. And I said, how did he say anything? What feedback did he give you? Did he like it? And he said, well, he said he was so into it that he did not get up from his dialysis treatment, and he sat there in the seat till he finished it. And so all that is the stuff that like reminds me why I wrote it, reminds me why I stepped into the space of wanting to put that, all the good, the bad, and the ugly out about me, and hoping that it would help someone else in the deployment.
Yeah, honestly, like, and that's so big too, because so many people, they keep their struggles private and they want this Instagram perfect life. You know, my life is awesome and I don't have anything to do with. And then, you know, they pass away due to suicide or something happens. And you're like, well, I, you know, had no idea they were struggling, you know, because people don't want to ask for help. They don't want to be, you know, outright just saying, you know, this is what happened, and you writing about it and being, you know, candid about your experiences. I mean, it really could change someone to like really just reach out and say, hey, I'm not okay, and you know, I need help. And I think
I
that
hope so.
I believe it's probably saving lives now. I think that's amazing.
I hope so.
So I see KJ writes, sad means two different things when it's vet versus civilian. Yes. I think it's different types of things, I guess. PTC, it comes in all different forms, shapes, and sizes. And unfortunately, even service doesn't preclude you. I think like it's just there's just so many different kinds. I think there's not just two. I think probably hundreds, unfortunately, which is really kind of sad. But it's great that people are coming forward and talking about their experiences, so that way others know that, you know, you can get help. Now, is there any links you would recommend? Now, I know we had been asked earlier by one of our favorite Grammys, and she's pretty amazing. And so she asked, you know, where could she find your book if she were want to purchase it? Because she's very interested.
Well, I'm so glad you're interested. You can actually catch it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere online, really, if you Google it. Like I said, it's Calmed Growth After Trauma by Jennifer Hobbs. However, if you want like the fanciest copy from me with a John Hancock, you just have to email me at jennifer@thejenniferhobbs.com. However, it's also an audiobook narrated by Jennifer Hobbs.
Well, Melissa's going to go ahead and post that in the comments for us. And then, yeah, KJ said in reference to the argument topic earlier, that also still applies. Like, both topics apply. Like, what I said and what you meant, KJ. Is that what you did there?
Hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. But the past couple minutes, y'all have sounded, my sound is distorted. I don't know what happened. But just know I am here. I even recorded so Brandy can hear, because it sounds like, wah, wah, wah. And I'm like, I know I'm sober. I don't know why I sound like this. But I'm here, y'all. Don't think I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
She can't hear.
Yeah. So yeah, I just messaged her, so she should get it. So, And then also, is like you said, is that the best way to reach out to you? Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk to before we do close tonight? It was honored to have you on, and I very much appreciate you being so open with your experiences because I know it's not easy to talk about that.
I would just say that on my mission to write like I said, I'm wrapping up the third book, but I really want to show the war at home with the third book, and I'm having conversations with people to see the different perspectives. Like, obviously, there's only certain perspectives that I'm going to include in my book, but I still want to educate myself and hear about the different perspectives. Whether you're on my podcast or not, you don't have to be on my podcast. Just have a conversation with me. Tell me about your, excuse me.
I'm sorry, I think when you're done there.
Tell me about your perspective as a sister, a mom, a kid, a child of a veteran, or just connect with me online at my email or Facebook or Instagram. That's all I would say. I got some other things going on as far as like personal development, webinars and one-on-one coaching, but I'm not here to sell myself. So, Ski, thank you for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Well, we'll definitely have you come back when your book comes out, and if you're always welcome on the Bad Moms Club, it's always a party there. So
it is. I love it. I was like laughing out loud when everyone was asleep the other night when I was watching it.
That's usually me in Monday night slumber party.
Love it.
Like tackling so hard. I'm like, my daughter is totally waking up.
I love it. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. It was like I said, it was an honor for us. If anyone has any questions for us, maybe if they want to link up with Jennifer, I mean, if you're not able to reach out, I mean, she's very quick about getting back to you. But if you have any questions, concerns, if you'd like future topics with her, please reach out to the SM Veteran Podcast. And then definitely, if you have any questions about the shirt, we are selling that for the next 3 weeks. And the proceeds will go to Operation Tattooing Freedom, which does tattoo veterans with PTSD with some world-class tattooists that come from all branches. And it's pretty awesome to see combat vets tattooing other vets, or just vets that really just have a generalized understanding of what we face as veterans with PTSD. Because, I mean, really, it's a challenge, and it's hard to deal with people and have that understanding. So we're going to go to close up tonight. I believe next week I won't be able to come on just because I was selected to speak for a Ladies of Liberty event with Miss Tracy Diane. She's going to be hosting us a panel, so I'm kind of excited about that. We may see if we can do something later. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to change the time, but if not, we will be back on the week after that, same time, same place. But if anyone would like to reach out regarding any future topics, like I said, please go ahead and message us as well. And like I say to, I guess how I wrap up all my podcasts, be good or be good at it. And thank you guys so much. And we will see you all very soon. Bye.